Hi, it's Lynn Rose, CEO of Wow You Now and WOWUTALKS, and welcome to WOWUTALKS Presents. And I'm so excited because today we have one of my dearest friends and someone who I've been very fortunate to know, but also has inspired me and so many through the years. And what a woman and presence in life and brilliance that Rebecca Kochenderfer, Becky is the childhood name, Rebecca Kochenderfer brings. Rebecca is co-founder and CEO of homeschool.com, which Forbes magazine touted as one of the top 40 sites back in its day. She sold it, in an incredible exit, and has worked with big brands from Time Warner to you name it. And she now is CEO of journaling.com. She's also getting her PhD in a very special process that she's created. And she's all about mindful life by design. And now taking it out on the road. And we've can you imagine all that she's bringing? And she is someone who lives her life by design, and maybe we'll get to touch on that a little bit. So Becky, thank you so much for being here, for being part of WOWUTALKS, and for what you do in the world.
Thank you. You know, it's so funny, proving that it's never too late. I went back to get my PhD in my 60s. And I ended up getting my PhD in a technique called Notice, Name, Relax, Release. I've been using it for 4 years. It's made such a big difference. And so now I'm a PhD researcher, and we're having this transformation in society these days. We used to ignore mental health. We couldn't talk about it, but now we're seeing the tie-in between mindfulness and mental health and a thriving life and a thriving workplace. So I'm so glad that we're just growing so much as a society. So thank goodness we're finally talking about these things. And it's my great pleasure to work with corporations and organizations to kind of bring these mindfulness techniques to employees and to companies as a whole.
Yes, it's so great. So maybe you can also just touch on that NNRR process. But I want to find out a little bit about your story. Maybe you can touch on, because can I say that for you and just say that real quick, and then you can fill in the blanks. So Becky had, with what Becky went through in life, was very traumatic as a kid, but she was able to navigate it in a way, obviously showed up powerfully, has a beautiful family, lives life by design, traveling around the world, deciding she's going to live with her family in New Zealand for 4 months while they go to school there, not be stopped by, she goes and lives in Germany and pursues something over here. And, she decides on something, she makes it happen. And anyone could have said, with the trauma that you went through, that you would have been shut down, blocked it off, but instead you just always sought a way. And now there's this process for yourself, how you discovered that took to another level of being free, and that you're giving out to people and to the workplace so that they can have even better engagement and leadership. But talk a little bit about that.
It's so funny. I was at a book signing one time for Joy Journal, Make Joy a Daily Experience. Yes. And I heard these two women talk saying, oh, I'm sure joy is easy for her, as if joy is easy for anyone. But I did, I was 8.5, my father died, and just 2 weeks later, my mother died. And I have 2 sisters who committed suicide. So I had some big stuff that I had to overcome. And I got really good at it using what I think of as life rafts or little bridges. In other words, in the beginning, I crammed things down so much that I have no memory of my life before 4th grade. It was that traumatic. I thought that everyone lost their memory of their childhood, but it was just because of these traumatic events. And I'm not the only one that has trauma in their life. And there's a difference between trauma and what I like to call like a samskara. Trauma is that sometimes it can be a growth opportunity for us. What happened in my young life, I look at it now as, what if this was happening for me, not to me? And someone must have said that to me, and it really painted the way that I looked at the situation so that I could grow from it. But these samskaras, these trapped emotions in us, those are different. We're not trained about emotions in our society. We don't even have names for them. You go into the doctor shoulder, and they just give you a smiley face or a frowny face. How are you feeling? We don't know words like, I'm feeling happy, I'm feeling relieved, I'm feeling anxious. That's really interesting that we don't have words for our experience, because in our society, it's like feelings, emotions are bad. Oh, rub some dirt in it. You know, don't be such a girl. Don't stop being so sensitive. But emotions, they matter. They're part of the human experience. They're nothing to be afraid of. They only last 90 seconds, according to a Harvard study. If we don't run from our feelings or cram them down, they're through us in a minute and a half. So that's one of the things I treat people and try to teach people and train people is, don't be afraid of your feelings. That's what makes us human and part of the human experience. Just notice your feelings, name them to kind of honor them, relax, and then release and let the emotions move through you. And that keeps the windshield of your life nice and clean. You don't collect emotions, you don't cling on to good things. You're able to approach life from a clear view, which makes you much less reactive to life. And it also makes you, let's say it, wiser. Because you're seeing life as it really is and not through the filter of your own stuff.
And you have the studies of your own to prove it, and as you worked with folks. And one thing I think that's important to realize, and maybe we can just touch on this, but that we're not one feeling at a time. We might have a dominant feeling, but we can have joy and sadness and anxiety and excitement all at the same time. And when we recognize that, just because one might be dominant, it doesn't mean you've lost all the others, or that they might also still be there. And sometimes it gets confusing because of what we've been, maybe the paradigm of what we have as to how feelings work. So I don't know if you want to touch on that piece of it.
Yeah, you know, I've been observing my emotions now for 4 years, notice, name, relax, release. And I was fortunate to lead the Calm Mind study. So 200 people tested this technique. And what we all discovered is, oh my, we have a lot of feelings all the time. That is the human experience. We're feeling beings. And I thought that by noticing my feelings, maybe I would have less of them. No, stuff happens. Stuff happens, it hits your stuff, good things happen, happy things happen. We are feeling beings, and just let them move through you. The trick is don't run from them, don't wrap them in story, and don't cram them down. And that's the big difference maker.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And when you're able to see that you're free of it, even for yourself, like what did you notice? What have you had people come back to you and say, now that they have this management system, what that makes available?
The first thing is that people were really surprised that they had so many feelings. The second thing is that we're afraid of our feelings. Be honest, we are. We're afraid that feelings are too big. We're afraid that we have too many feelings. We're afraid of our emotions. And that's why we don't face them. But you find out that there's nothing to be afraid of. And you know what? You become whole. Because sometimes we think with these feelings, we think that we're broken, and we're not. Feeling is a human experience. You are not your feelings, you're the observer of your feelings. You're coming from a higher place. You're coming from your authentic place. You're just observing that you are having an emotion, and in that way it moves on through. And life is so much easier because you're not reacting all the time through your stuff. Here's a funny story. When I was a child, it seemed like every person I met who was named Barbara was not a nice person. So then every time I met someone named Barbara, I was predisposed to, I know this is funny, I was predisposed to not like anyone whose name was Barbara. And you know you do this too. I'm not the only one. And it's because we collect these stories about ourselves, but let's clean out that bucket that we're carrying with us. Let these kind of stories and this reactivity go so that you can meet someone with Barbara and you go, oh, you're a really nice person. You're not just seeing people through the lens of your stuff. Another thing too,
or
Lynn,
ourselves, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, through the lens of your stuff and through ourselves. Another interesting thing too is that people think that by noticing and releasing our feelings that it's going to make us passive. But it doesn't. It makes us powerful. We're seeing our emotions. We're watching them move through us. We're just not wrapping them in story. We're not telling ourselves, oh, I'm an introvert, that's who I am, or I'm bad at math. We're just not wrapping any beliefs to them. You're not passive. Instead, you become responsive rather than reactive. And that's a huge difference.
And actually it is power. And because I lost my dog of 20 years, who was my soulmate, and I would notice, and you don't become victim of your feelings. It is power. When you can own the navigating of them and not stuffing it down, but allowing it through, it opens up. So try that. We want to make sure you check out Rebecca Kochenderfer and what she has created, Mindful Life by Design. Bring her into your companies, bring her into your world, and check out her work. You can check her out on WOW Now. You can check her out at journaling.com.
I have all of this at journaling.com.
Incredible resources there as well.
Yeah.
And also you can check out her talk, and just incredible what you stand for, what you've created in the world, and for what you share and what's possible for all of us through this work.
Thank you, Lynn. I really believe that a mindful life is an authentic life, and it's a richer life, and it's a calmer life. It's good.
Awesome. So we're about bringing forward leaders that wow, and the incredible work that you do. Thank you so much. And make sure you go out there and share your work. Take in the NNRR and free yourself, because we need you. Go out and wow the world. And welcome to WOW Talks.